Donald Trump came into office in 2017, Yemen was suffering through a civil war, being fought by two factions. One under President Abdrabbuh Mansour Hadi, supported by the United States and Saudi Arabia, and those opposed to him, led by the Houthis. The Houthis accused Hadi of corruption and of trying to balkanize the small nation into 6 distinct regions, and for being a lackey of America, which he was. There were many protests, and in 2015, the Houthis and their many allies won out against Hadi, who then resigned, and they placed him under house arrest. He managed to escape to Saudi Arabia, which began military operations to oust the Houthis and bring Hadi back to power. The Houthis did not want him back, because they were ruling through the will of their people, while Hadi did not have such legitimacy. This began a long and bloody war, in which Saudi Arabia threw everything it had, while the Houthis defeated them at every step of the way. When Trump came into office, he backed Mansour Hadi, and actively involved the United States militarily in Yemen, in order to defeat the Houthis and install Hadi or his successor as president. To bring about regime change, Trump significantly increased military actions in Yemen, in the hope of defeating the Houthis. The attacks by the United States military killed a lot of civilians, including children, and resulted in no success whatsoever. It is difficult to know the number of civilians killed, because in March 2019, Trump rescinded an Obama-era policy, which required U.S. intelligence officials to publicly report the number of civilians killed. The number of strikes was higher than in previous years, with 133 officially declared actions in 2017 alone. What was actually gained by carrying out these strikes is still not known, because they served very little purpose. They were simply regime change operations that all came to naught. One notable operation was the raid on Yakla. This was a joint military operation, conducted by the United States and the United Arab Emirates, on January 29, 2017, in the Ul-Gail village, of the Yakla region, in Yemen's Al-Baida Governorate. The raid's approval deviated from standard procedures, bypassing a formal National Security Council review. It was simply discussed over dinner with key advisors, including Jared Kushner and Steve Bannon. The operation aimed to gather intelligence on al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula and target its leaders. The raid was authorized by Trump, 9 days into his presidency. The plan was actually prepared under President Obama, but was not executed during his term. The operation involved U.S. Navy SEALs from the Naval Special Warfare Development Group, and UAE commandos. They were transported to the site via MV-22 Osprey aircraft. Navy SEAL Chief Petty Officer, William Owens, was killed, and 3 other U.S. operators were injured, during the extraction, when an Osprey crash-landed and was subsequently destroyed. Up to 14 al-Qaeda fighters were reported killed. Again, it is difficult to know the exact numbers, given the lack of accountability. The U.S. initially denied civilian casualties, but later acknowledged between 4 and 12 civilian deaths. Local reports and human rights groups suggested that between 20 to 30 civilians were killed, including women and children. Notably, Nawar al-Awlaki, an 8-year-old American citizen and daughter of Anwar al-Awlaki, was among those killed. The raid severely damaged a local medical clinic, a mosque, and a school. Hardly military assets. It is impossible to know exactly what intelligence was gathered by the U.S., since whatever might have been gathered was destroyed, while the Americans were trying to extract themselves from Yakla. In other words, when the dust settled, nothing was gained. But the raid did succeed in exacerbating anti-American sentiment among Yemenis. Is it not curious that American governments are very successful in promoting anti-American sentiments throughout the world? Then, Trump expanded U.S. support for the Saudi-led coalition in Yemen, including logistical and intelligence aid, in the hope of regime change. He vetoed a bipartisan bill in 2019 aimed at stopping U.S. support for this coalition, which was criticized for its role in exacerbating the devastating humanitarian crisis that soon developed. Then, in 2020, he froze foreign aid from coming into Yemen. This led to a massive humanitarian crisis, in which many civilians perished. The consequences of Trump's actions in Yemen were severe, and did not bring peace, nor any negotiations for peace, let alone regime change. The suspension of aid reduced the incentives for parties to engage in peace negotiations. Economic aid can be a powerful tool to encourage cooperation and negotiations, as it provides tangible benefits for parties involved in the conflict resolution process. The aid freeze launched a humanitarian crisis, and contributed to increased instability and tensions within Yemen. The aid freeze, combined with existing bureaucratic and security challenges, further complicated humanitarian access across Yemen. This limited the operational space for humanitarian actors, which is crucial for building trust and facilitating dialogue among conflicting parties. The decision to freeze aid altered international dynamics, affecting the willingness of other countries to support peace efforts. Despite years of trying, and raining down hell on the Yemenis, Trump failed to defeat the Houthis, and failed to install his man as president. Trump did not get a decisive victory. The Houthis, on the other hand, had defeated a coalition ranged against them. By just surviving and beating back raids, airstrikes, and the drones, they were the victors. It seems that Trump wants to pick up where he left off, in Yemen, back in 2020. The Yemenis understand this perfectly, and know how to win, despite the massive firepower that America brings. Trump really should try to read the story of David and Goliath a little more carefully.